What's the difference between a good hamburger and a shooting star? The burger is very meaty, but the shooting star is a little meatier. Hey kids, Adam here. Today we are going to comp and edit some drums in Reaper. And there's a big announcement that I have to make. I've kind of been teasing this in a few previous videos, but I'll come right out and say it. This is going to be kind of the prelude, one of the pre-parts to a new series that I'm going to do. It's going to be a free mix course. So I will have all of the stems available for you to download. I'm going to start from like gain staging, editing, analog goodness, then get into drums and bass and guitar and vocals, keys, and then some automation, effects, the whole thing. I'm going to do it as if I was doing this song for real, because I am going to be doing this song for real, but I will provide the stems for you to kind of go along with it. It's going to be completely free here on the YouTube channel. I'm not going to charge for it. I'm going to make a playlist for it, and it'll be out there forever, so you can reference it whenever you want. So that said, we recorded the drums for this song, and as part of the recording process, I like to edit and comp the drums and get a final take so that we can record the rest of the instruments to it. So you may think that you want to just record everything and then edit later, but then what you have happens if you have something that's a little bit off time, you fix the drums and then the bass is off time, and then you fix the bass, then you fix the guitar. We're not recording live here, recording more similar to what I imagine you guys are doing if you're doing live instruments where you're recording them one at a time. Now in the future, we're going to be recording bed tracks all at the same time, so that's another story, probably another video series that I'll do down the road, probably not even this year, probably maybe next year. But for now, this is the way we do things. We record drums at our practice space, then I take those home and I do bass. Then I go back to the practice space with the guitarist. We do guitars, we do vocals. Keyboardist does some of his at home and some of his at the practice space, depending on the parts. And then we kind of all get together for background vocals and get those all set up. So that said, let's get over to Reaper and get these drums edited. All right, here on Reaper, I have my drums recorded, and then we have just a scratch bass track with nothing done. Kind of sounds like this. So we have drums, we have bass, nothing's mixed, nothing's edited, nothing's panned, nothing at all. What I have is I have 7 takes of the entire song, and then we have another 11 takes of just the ending. The ending has kind of a drum fill solo part. We thought we would take get some takes done towards the end to kind of get a better sound out of that. So let's dive right in. One of the first questions that I get, and if I select all these tracks here and expand these, you'll see that because we recorded in takes, all the takes have their own lane. And this is kind of good to see when you're recording. It's really, really annoying and not useful at all when you're editing, especially since, I only have 7 for these and I have another 18 over here, and it's just kind of a giant mess. Easiest way to do it, you hold down, or you click on the first track, first take, hold on Control, hit L, and it puts everything into one take. And as you noticed here, and let me shrink these back down here. Actually, I only really need the snare and the kick. You'll notice that we're yellow here because we're at take 1, and then that's pink, which is take 7. So I'm going to cycle through these to get to take 7. Now the next thing you need to do is select all of your tracks and group them. So if you hold on the right mouse button and kind of marquee select everything, if you hit the right mouse button again on one of them, there's this group option and then group items. You can also go up to item, group, and group items, or just hit the G key. Now everything's grouped, so when I don't have anything selected, I'm completely off of this. If I select the first track and I hit, it's going through all my takes on every track. And that's why we want to have this grouped for going forward. Once we get to the end part, we may group a little bit differently, may not. We'll see what happens when we get to that. So when we track this, typically when we record, your takes get better as you go along. The first you know, I usually turn on recording right away when we're there, even if it's just considered like a warm up, because I just want to get the feeling of the drummer and just get everything in case we get something that's really good later on. Maybe there's one fill that's really good, or if I don't have anything in the other takes, maybe I can go back to the first one. So I just hit record and we do the whole song all the way through a number of times. So I'm going to start with take 7 here, and we're just going to kind of play through it. Now, let me zoom in on the kick here. I do not time align my drums. Now, what does that mean? So there's this grid here, and you can see the grid is, you know, as I get further in, it's the quarter notes here. As I get really far in, and it's each measure, you know, 4.1, 5.1, 6.1, 7.1, that's the grid. And when I talk about timelining to a grid, a lot of guys, especially if you're doing like EDM music, totally understand why you would do this. It's on the beat, it's house, it's, you know, techno, whatever style you're doing, you want all those things to be right there. So when you bring in your loops and your samples, they'll be time aligned and you won't have to worry about it. This is more of a funk, rock, pop genre song. And we're actually playing behind the beat here. In fact, let me zoom in on this kick drum, and you guys at OCD are going to flip out here. Normally in drum editing, you'd want to take this thing and you'd want to move it over so it started there. Not with us. We have a behind the beat feel. In fact, you can see all these kicks are behind the beat. They start, you know, as I scroll over, they start behind the beat. The whole song is behind the beat feel. In fact, let me play this with the metronome. You can tell, and the kick is pretty quiet in here because nothing's been EQ'd or phased aligned or anything. You can tell that things are behind a little bit, and they're not right on the click. Now, we do record to a click, but the drummer has it ingrained in his head that he's keeping behind that beat. It just gives an overall better feel to the song. And the reason why we're editing drums now is because I want to record my bass part to the finalized drums. I'm not going to turn the click on when I record my bass part. And then when we go through all the rest of them, the click will not be on. Everyone will be recording to the foundation that's already built there. You get a much more live sounding performance, much more energy than performance, much more feel and musicality in the performance. So that said, I'm not going to really be doing what's called slip editing here unless it really needs it. I'm more comping, getting away like bad sounding things. And what I mean by comping is I'm going to take the composition created out of the different takes that we have. One thing I want to do first is I want to hit the phase button on the snare bottom, turn that down a little bit, and then the phase also on the overheads. I'll get into this in the actual course of why I'm doing this, but it just makes the snare sound better and sound a little bit more deep. I don't need it for this because I'm not really focused in on the sound, but it'll help me just kind of hear things better. So let's just kind of go through from the beginning and see what things sound like. And when I find a part that I don't like, I'll stop it and we'll talk about it. And I'm going to leave the metronome on, but I'm going to turn it down. Hey kids, future dad here, coming from a point in the future where it's a different color. So here's what happened. I recorded this video, got everything figured out, everything the way I wanted to. Then when I went to edit it, I realized that the click in Reaper does not go through Restream to OBS. So there's several times in here that I mention the click and say, oh, you can hear that, can you hear that? And you can't, because the only way it would be coming through is coming through my microphone, but since I have a noise gate on that, you can't really hear it. Every once in a while it'll come through, but it won't. So I apologize. I really don't want to go through and re-record this video because I think there's some really good stuff in here. And I captured a couple things that I really wanted to. I don't want to miss that if I go through and re-record it again. So I apologize. You won't hear a click. Trust me that when I'm playing this and I say there's a click in the background, it's on. And when I turn it off, it's off. And when I turn it back on, it's on again. Just trust me with this. And now back to the I should have gone back into the past and told myself this before I started recording. But what I'm listening for is I'm listening for making sure things are in time. I'm making sure things are in time with each other. And I'm especially making sure the fills are good and in time, and that there's no like weird hits, like if he hits a rim or mishits a cymbal or things like that. That's what I'm looking for in this performance. So here we go. cymbal was a little weak here. I don't know if it's going to matter, but just in case, I'm going to split these out and choose another take and see if we can get a better cymbal. So because I have everything grouped, all I have to do is click on this click track and I hit S for split, and it's going to split everything. And then when I move through the takes, the T key moves up in takes, up in numbers, and Shift T moves down. Now, because we only took 7 takes of the whole performance, if I hit T, there's an empty lane here because there's no take there. So what I'm going to do is Shift T and I'll go back down, and then we'll just see what we can find of the best sounding note here. You'll notice we're focusing right on this crash on measure 10. The 6 sounds more like a full hit. The 7, take 7 sounds more like he's hitting with the tip of his stick. So here's 6, here's 7. So I'm going to stick with 6 here. And then I want to go towards where the crash is done. So I think pretty much here, the first beat after measure 11, I'm going to go back to take 7, and we'll just listen to it. So you notice that the snare was off right here, because we're getting one snare from one take and one snare from the other take. Now I have crossfades off because I don't want things to auto crossfade. I'm going to do that manually at the end, but I do want to fix this. So because we're off the beat, we're not perfectly timeline, I want to turn the snap to grid off, which is this little icon over here, or Alt S. Then if you get your mouse cursor to look like this, I can just drag this over and make sure I get the right note. So then when I play it, it's seamless. So let's continue on. Keep going. That feels good. This fill is a little strange. It's like he's hitting the snare and the tom at the same time, and I think he's doing it on purpose, but I think just for cleanliness, I know there's another take of the fill somewhere. So listen to the fill again. So I'm going to hit S to split it here, and going through this, I know take 5 was pretty good. See, there's no snare, there's just the tom hit. And then what I want to do is, because there's a crash, sometimes drummers will use different crashes in different fills, just depending on where they are on the kit or what they're feeling at the time. It's kind of like different fingering on a bass or guitar, depending on where you are. A lot of times they'll play them the same because it's repetition and muscle memory. Every once in a while they'll play a different cymbal. I want to make sure that the cymbal ring is gone because I don't want that to come in from one take to the next, in case he hits it just a little bit differently. So what I want to do is I want to go like a measure or so after the crash that's at measure 16, and I want to find out where the best place to go back, because I want to use the most of take 7 that I can. I think right about here should be good. So then you notice here when I click on the area, because I have snap disabled, it's not going to go exactly on the measure, which is fine. I kind of want to aim for before this next kick, because I know they're pretty much lined up. So then if I click here, hit S, and then click here and go back to take 7, it should be lined up pretty well. I just want to make sure it comes out okay and transitions to the next part okay. That fill seemed a little slow, a little laggy. So I'm going to hit split here. We'll go to take 6. Listen to this one. Four sounded pretty good. Two sounded okay. So go between 2 and 4. I'm going to go and measure before, and we'll just kind of hear it. Did you hear what I heard with that cymbal? Listen to the cymbal right here. it's a different cymbal between the two takes. So I'm gonna go back to take 2. I think take 2 is better because he hits the same cymbal so that we get the same wash over there. So let's see. About here, we'll slip back and go back to take 7. So this take is kind of rough. He's trying to do a like a double kick and a double tom. And I noticed, let's see if I can, let me split this like right here. That one sounds pretty good. I think I could fix take 7 though. So you hear the kicks here are just kind of off. There's like a double kick and then it comes with a tom. It's just kind of off to me. And I think it's a second kick right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this kick out. I'm gonna split before and after it, and then just on the kick track itself, I'm just gonna take the volume all the way down. And this is what it sounds like now. It's close, and I think when the music comes in, like if I play the bass here, it's gonna sound fine there. I would probably mark this as a spot. You know, I can go up here and just hit M for marker and mark this as a spot to revisit. And I'll make a note. I usually have a OneNote, Microsoft OneNote next to me where I always keep notes just to kind of revisit this whole thing and just say, wait, what's going on here? There's something weird with this fill. I might actually go back to like the fill in the first take because I thought that was good. I think the overall performance here is better, but I think that first fill was a little bit better. So for now, we'll just kind of move on. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to do through the whole song. I don't want to take you through the exact entirety of the song going through this, but this is the kind of things that I'm looking for when I'm editing drums. But there are a couple things I wanted to point out and a couple interesting things that happen in this track. So let me go find one and I'll be right back. So here we are on measure 69. I'm going to play you something. I'm going to take the metronome off so there's no click. See if you can hear the second crash. There's something weird. Did you hear that? Let me zoom in right on it. It sounds like a bad edit. It sounds like if you're actually editing the drums, it was a bad edit, but it's not. This is on the actual take. What I found is if I zoom in really far on the right overhead here, there's this weird chopped off wave. And if I solo this, I don't know what that is. I don't know if he accidentally hit the microphone or if it's again kind of like earlier where it's more of the tip of the drumstick rather than the body and the stick of the drumstick hitting it. So what I can do here is I can zoom really far in and do a split before and after and just take this down by a bunch. And now when I play it, it sounds really good. And now if I go back, and now you don't really hear it. It's just a different cymbal. But that's a way you can get something like a weird artifact in there just out, just kind of volume. And I'm only dropping the volume on that overhead itself. So in the grand scheme of things, you're never even going to really be able to tell. It's because it's just that initial transient and that note that I'm killing. I've noticed that in a couple spots in here. I don't know what it is. It's definitely not clipping because, you know, as you can tell, the levels here are nowhere near a clipping thing. I'm not really sure what happened there. I think it's more of that he hit it more with the stick. Now, again, I could go look for another thing. It's right in the middle of this fill, though, and I really like the way he's playing it. And I think to find another take and try to maybe punch in, or not punch in, but replace just one cymbal just will make it sound unnatural. There's one more thing that's kind of weird. So let's go back to this marker here. And there's this weird kick thing. And I think this is a case whereas before where I can take one of these kicks out and have it sound better, because if I go through these takes, that's just kind of out of time. That's out of time. That's closer. That's much closer, actually. That's out of time. Sorry, Spike. I'm gonna go to take 4. What I think I want to do is take out that second kick, or the first kick, I mean, and do the same thing I did before. I just take the volume out of it. It sounds like this then. And then I want to slip edit this one a little bit. And so if I split this out and I have just this area selected, if I hold on Alt and move this over a little bit, and I think that sounds better. And I could even, for gain staging purposes, bring this one up in volume. See if I can get it to stand out a little bit more. I think that sounds much better. All right, now let's listen to this last section where we have essentially a 4-measure drum solo. Here's why we do multiple takes, kids. If you can hear in here, he hit a rim and I think dropped a stick at the same time. And you can see there's nothing else there, even though I kept playing. I wanted just to get the take recorded. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through these different parts and find a better take for this end solo. Let's just go back and see if there's a better take here. And actually, you know what I will do? I will take this all the way back. I want to get the same cymbal and the same ride cymbal attack that he was doing through the whole thing. That's much better. So now we can focus on the fill. There's some weird kick stuff going on there. I really don't like that. Let me see if I can start it like right here. Go to the next. Didn't like that one. Seems to be some weird pausing going on the toms there. So we'll just keep cycling through. We have 18 or 10 takes of this thing. That was actually pretty good. In fact, I think this take in its entirety would work. What I kind of want to do, though, is kind of want to split this up and see if maybe I can find a better third measure or closer to the end, just to show that we can do a comp take. It's going to be kind of hard because there's different cymbals and there's different hits and there's different timings kind of going around here. Let me see if I can kind of zone in and find a better spot to split this out and pull in the next part of it. I think this part, maybe right here. Go back up to 18 and start from there. That was pretty good. So basically we have the outro here now has 3 different takes. They're on different annoying colors. But I was able to show that I was able to get 3 different comps and come in to get the same part and to get a cohesive part. It doesn't sound like it's a separate take at all. What you can do now, let's say that one of these was not quite right. You can always do the thing I did before where you hold down these 2 and you kind of just slide this around to get where the right note is and where the best place to cut the note in, but I actually kind of got lucky and got the right spot here. So now that I have comps, and I skip most of the project, most of mine will look, like this. It'll look rainbow through the whole thing. I skip most of it just to show you the parts. You guys don't want to just see me editing and comping drums through the whole thing. But what I want to do is when I'm done, I want to go through and make sure there's no pops and clicks and do some crossfades to make sure things are a little bit more cohesive. So I can go back to the original spot here. And the easiest way to do it, what you want to do is you want to right click on your grid and make sure your line spacing is at 1/128th for this. I usually leave it on by default as that anyway, just because then you almost can leave the snap on. I'm going to turn the snap back on with Alt S. And then I'm going to zoom in really far here, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag this over once. And you probably won't be able to hear it. If I take it off, in fact, I could probably take it off. You could hear that, but if I have it butting right up to it, you probably don't hear the difference. But if you do a crossfade and there happens to be just a little bit of different audio, it'll help fade those together and help make it sound better. So I want to do that at every point where I'm going in and out of different takes. So zoom in on here and do this one. I usually do right to left, where I'm taking the part coming up and crossfading into the part that's coming out. And then just listen to each one. And then go to the next one, do the same thing. This one may actually have to be a little bit more, but we'll see what it sounds like. That one didn't sound all that great. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring the whole thing over. So I get the whole note, and then I'll crossfade back. And it's the same thing. I'm just doing one of these little sections just to make sure it sounds okay. What you don't want is something, let me see if I can artificially make one here. You don't want something like this, where you get like a flam sound because your one part was like a millisecond over and your other part was a millisecond over this way. So by doing that, you can kind of move and crossfade and get things lined up. That is really, really it as far as comping and editing drums. What I do want to show you, though, is one extra thing that I do when I'm done with, and I'm ready to say, you know what, this is the final thing. I'll render it out and I'll listen to it, and I'll make sure, I'll listen to it on earbuds to make sure I'm really not hearing any pops. I'll listen to it when I'm not looking at the screen so I don't see different color changes and think that's a difference. There was actually the one take where it sounded like it was a bad edit, where it was really a cymbal thing. But let's say I'm completely done, perfectly happy, and I'm ready to go on. What I want to do then is I want to do a marquee selection on everything again. And then I want to right click. I want to do glue items. And what this is going to do is going to get rid of all the takes, put everything down into a single wave file, and turns it back to my yellow for Y drums. And then the performance is just, you can't tell where things were cut. There's no edits. And if I have to go back, I make sure I'm saving at frequent spots. In fact, what I'll do is I'll save this project before I do the glue. I'll save it to a new name, and then I'll do the glue in the new name. And that way I can make sure that I don't have to worry about overwriting something or not saving something that I've already done or stepping on stuff. And if I ever need to go back, I make sure I go back. In fact, I may do a video one of these days on my file arrangements and like folder and files and windows, and how I do projects and how I name things for both projects and folders and media and the whole thing. Maybe look for that sometime in the future. All right, so that is comping and editing drums and the precursor to what's going to be hopefully a fun series that I'm going to do for, and again, if for some reason you jumped in the video at whatever minute we're on, 147 or whatever, and you haven't seen the beginning, I'm going to do a free mix course. It's going to be here on the channel on YouTube, not on a third-party platform. I will provide these stems, and you can follow me along and mix with Dad. So what do you think of this? Do you have problems editing drums? Do you timeline everything? Do you like this approach better? Do you like the timeline approach better? I know this is much more manual than some automated things you can do, but this is also keeping the structure of the performance alive, and it's going to keep that behind the beat feel. And that's what I'm looking for as a bass player when I go to record. I really like to sync up with the drummer and get him and I synced on the same part. And by doing this, and I actually played along with him, which is why we have the scratch track. I played along with him in the recording, and that's how we were able to sync up. I want to get my part perfectly synced to his, and I want it behind the beat. I want it that funk feel. I want it to sound great. So, like, share, subscribe, comment, bell, all other fun YouTube things. And until next time, have yourselves an amazing week. We have that like funk backbeat whole, it really, really drives you wild. No, that's something else. You'll notice because I have the snap off that I'm not getting exactly on the measure, which is fine. I actually want to go before this